By September 1944, Allied forces had broken out of Normandy and pushed German troops out of much of France and Belgium. The rapid advance created an opportunity. German defences appeared disorganised, and many Allied commanders believed the war in Europe could be ended before the end of the year. The question was how to cross into Germany quickly. The Rhine River remained the last major natural barrier. If the Allies could secure bridges across it, they could bypass prepared defences and strike directly into the industrial heart of the Rhine. I'm Coulter Price, and before we continue, if you're into detailed military history explained clearly and without filler, make sure to like and subscribe. Field Marshal Bernard Montgomery proposed a plan to do exactly that. Instead of a broad advance, he argued for a narrow, concentrated thrust through the Netherlands. The goal was to seize a series of bridges in a single operation and push armoured forces across the Rhine. The plan was called Operation Market Garden. The operation had two parts. Market was the airborne component. Garden was the ground advance. Market involved three major airborne divisions. The US 101st Airborne Division would secure bridges around Eindhoven. The US 82nd Airborne Division would capture key crossings near Nijmegen. The British 1st Airborne Division, along with Polish paratroopers, would take the final and most critical objective, the bridge at Arnhem, across the lower Rhine. Garden would be executed by the British 30 Corps. This armoured force would advance north along a single highway, linking up with each airborne unit in sequence. If everything worked, 30 Corps would reach Arnhem within 2 to 3 days. The plan depended on speed, coordination, and timing. Each airborne unit needed to hold its bridge long enough for ground forces to arrive. Any delay could break the entire chain. There were known risks. The operation relied on a narrow corridor, vulnerable to German counterattacks. Intelligence reports indicated the presence of German armoured units near Arnhem, but these warnings were downplayed. Commanders believed German forces in the area were too weak and disorganized to respond effectively. On September 17, 1944, the operation began. Over 34,000 airborne troops were deployed in the largest airborne operation of the war. The skies over the Netherlands filled with transport aircraft and gliders. In the south, the 101st Airborne Division landed near Eindhoven. Their objective was to secure multiple bridges and ensure the route remained open for 30 Corps. They encountered scattered resistance but moved quickly. Most of their targets were captured within the first day, although some bridges were destroyed before they could be secured. Further north, the 82nd Airborne Division landed near Nijmegen. Their mission included capturing the vital bridge over the Wall River. Initial progress was slower. Some units prioritized securing high ground rather than immediately taking the bridge, which allowed German forces time to reinforce the area. The most critical drop occurred near Arnhem. The British 1st Airborne Division landed several kilometers away from the main bridge. This decision was made due to concerns about anti-aircraft defenses, but it created a significant delay. Only a small portion of the division reached the Arnhem Bridge on the first day. Led by Lieutenant Colonel John Frost, these troops managed to secure the northern end of the bridge. However, the rest of the division was slowed by German resistance and failed to reinforce the position. What Allied planners had underestimated was the presence of German II SS Panzer Corps units in the area. These were experienced and well-equipped formations, not disorganized remnants. They reacted quickly to the airborne landings. Within hours, British forces at Arnhem were isolated. While airborne troops fought to hold their objectives, 30 Corps began its advance from the south. The ground offensive faced immediate challenges. The entire advance depended on a single elevated highway running through low-lying terrain. This route quickly became congested with tanks, infantry, and supply vehicles. German forces launched repeated counterattacks along the corridor. Even small disruptions caused significant delays. Destroyed vehicles, damaged bridges, and defensive positions forced 30 Corps to stop, reorganize, and fight for every kilometer. The highway became known as Hell's Highway. Despite these obstacles, 30 Corps linked up with the 101st Airborne Division near Eindhoven. Progress continued north toward Nijmegen, but delays were accumulating. At Nijmegen, the situation became critical. The bridge over the Wall River remained in German hands. To take it, elements of the 82nd Airborne Division conducted a river crossing under fire. Using small boats, they crossed the river in daylight and assaulted the bridge from the north. The operation succeeded, but it took time and came at high cost. By the time the bridge was secured, the schedule for the entire operation had already slipped. 30 Corps finally crossed the Nijmegen Bridge on September 20th. Arnhem was only about 16 kilometers away. But those 16 kilometers proved decisive. At Arnhem, Frost's forces held the bridge for several days under constant attack. They faced tanks, artillery, and infantry assaults with limited anti-tank weapons and dwindling supplies. Radio communications had failed, preventing coordination with other units. Reinforcements could not break through. Supply drops often fell into German-controlled areas. By September 21st, Frost's position was overrun. The remaining British forces withdrew into defensive pockets west of Arnhem, where they continued to resist. 30 Corps, slowed by constant fighting and logistical constraints, never reached Arnhem in time. On September 25, 1944, the operation was called off. The surviving elements of the British 1st Airborne Division were evacuated across the Rhine. Operation Market Garden had failed. The Allies secured a narrow corridor into the Netherlands, but they did not achieve their primary objective, a crossing over the Rhine into Germany. The reasons for failure were clear. The plan relied on a single route of advance, creating a logistical bottleneck. Intelligence warnings about German armored units were not properly acted upon. Airborne forces were dropped too far from key objectives in Arnhem. The timetable was too optimistic, leaving no margin for delay. The result was significant. The war in Europe did not end in 1944. Instead, Allied forces would spend the winter fighting through heavily defended German territory. Operation Market Garden remains one of the most ambitious airborne operations ever attempted. It demonstrated both the potential and the limitations of large-scale airborne warfare when dependent on precise timing and coordination. The objective had been to end the war quickly. Instead, it extended the path to victory.